Well, you know what else is a complete and utter travesty?
Not 28 days later.
Not 28 days later.
Nice try.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, so interestingly, 28 days later has been playing in cinemas fairly recently. I didn't go and see it because it was... Yeah, no, here's the thing. It was on at 9:30 at night. So I'm like, no, I haven't got the time for this. Literally.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Also, the poster they put out was absolutely atrocious. It was just... I mean, you can't beat the original poster. It's just, iconic.
Yeah.
But I thought it was the 20th anniversary. It's the 22nd, so I don't know if they're just putting it in because they've announced that 28 years later is officially happening.
Yeah, I think it's most likely the fact that 28 years later is now officially happening. So they're like, oh, maybe we'll just put it... I'm assuming they didn't do it for like a week. It was just like a one-nighter type thing.
I think it was. If not, it might have been for a couple of days, but I can't... I also can't remember...
A day,
I think
couple of days.
No, actually, no, I tell a lie. It was because there was a Danny Boyle thing on, because I know there was Trainspotting as well, which I also haven't seen.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of Danny Boyle I haven't watched, like, bar this and 127 Hours and Yesterday. That's the only things I've seen from him, which is bad on my part. But 28 Days Later was always one that I knew I wanted to see because enough people have talked really positive smack about it.
Including me.
Yeah, including you. So, going into it, I was like... This could end up being terrible. It's entirely possible. I've had some disappointing duds this year that have just been like, just made me reevaluate why I talk about movies and not, I don't know, something else like pottery or gardening or something.
Pottery. The real potterers.
The real
that
potterers.
Sounds like a Harry Potter podcast, to be honest. The real potterers.
I'd also be down for that, even though no one would listen to us.
Do people listen to us anyway?
Anyway, for the case of those who don't know what 28 Days Later is, this was released back in 2002, and in retrospect has been referred to as a zombie film, but it's just not, like, by any means. Like, no one's undead. Like, when they become dead, they stay dead. They don't just get back up when they become dead.
They're very unalive.
Yes, the walking unalive. So you've got Cillian Murphy as Jim, who wakes up from a coma 28 days into this basically rabies, to be honest. It's just basically rabies that have just ravaged most of the UK, maybe the entire planet. No one's really quite sure. I'm saying this after not seeing 28 Weeks Later yet. I don't know what's going to happen with that, so yeah. That's that one's on Disney Plus. 28 Days Later doesn't exist on any streaming service. I think it's a rights thing, from what I know. So I was able to get the DVD for £1, so I got quite lucky with that one. Because if you try and search up the Blu-ray for 28 Days Later, might as well get a third mortgage, maybe a cat as well, because it's going to be expensive. Oh yeah, it's costly.
It's like how much is a lot for a Blu-ray copy of 28 Days Later?
Bordering on like nearly £100.
Seriously?
I mean, I might be stretching it. I mean, I haven't looked for a while because I don't need to now. But anytime I looked, I was like, yeah, I'm not paying this much. Which is a shame because this film is
it's like a
brilliant.
Vintage item now. What the hell?
Yeah, it's a bit like the PS2 release of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, where it just steals a load of stuff from the Chamber of Secrets and then charge £130 nowadays because it's just really, really rare. I'm like, no, I'm not paying that much for a rip-off. But yeah, in the case of 28 Days Later, I did find myself really enjoying it, and I've said often enough on this podcast and previous things as well, zombies is very difficult for me to actually care about.
It is. Yes.
I mean, let's face it, the last time was really Dawn of the Dead original. And that one, I've always appreciated. One of the things I actually really appreciated about that one, I'm sure I said it at the time, was I actually really liked the fact that some of the survivors, or in fact most of the survivors, are not particularly good people, and the film really highlights that. And watching 28 Days Later, initially, yeah, the people that are surviving are really nice. Cillian Murphy, surprise Naomi Harris appearance, surprise Brendan Gleeson appearance, surprise really, really terrible child performance as well. Sorry, not very good. Like, they're all lovely. And then Christopher Eccleston rocks up, and I'm like, okay, either we're safe or we're doomed. I don't know which one it is. And then his posh accent rocks up. I'm like, yep, we're doomed. He's evil. I hate this guy.
As soon as the posh accent comes, you know it's all over.
Well, I mean, it took us a couple of seconds where I was like, is he doing an accent? Or is he just trying to act? I'm not quite sure which one it is. And in reality, yeah, it's the accent. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what it is with just a northerner with a non-northern accent. It just immediately screams evil. I don't know what it is.
The change of accent so is automatically the villain.
Yeah, which is why us two are absolutely lovely. But, I mean, that's something I really like with 28 Days Later, is that, yeah, some of the people that survive this are not going to be nice people at all, because I think it would be unrealistic to assume that the ones that are lucky to survive...
It'd be unrealistic to assume that that's how people literally behave. Like, if an apocalypse happened nowadays, right, like, let's face it, we're not going to be nicey nice people. It's all out for yourselves, which is what some people are going to do. Like, it's survive, it's be killed or get killed, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I do really like the survivor aspect of it. Yeah, you get the people who are kind and stuff like that, but then you get the people who are like, you come near me, you're going to die.
Well, that's the thing as
But
well.
It's human reaction. Like that's what I love about it. It's because it feels like they're actually being human.
Yeah, it's surprising enough. This isn't going to be the only time in this thing where I'm going to be referencing really awful humans. I'll be doing that in a little bit for Planet of the Apes. But in the case of 28 Days Later, I mean, for one, they did a really good job at setting up this really sweet little family that just sort of come together and are just off on a road trip, and it's got a lot of levity when the entire film is really downbeat and sad, to be honest. Like those first few sequences of Cillian Murphy just wandering around a completely abandoned London. I'm like, I don't know how you did this in 2002, but you could not do it now. Like, there's no way you'd be able to block off streets like that. It's like, even just the shot of him on London Bridge, which I've actually got more nostalgia for when you get that iconic shot of, like, the 1960s Daleks, like, doing, like, a roll across of it. But seeing that, and it's like, there's not a single thing in sight. It's absolutely crazy.
I mean, my assumption of it is that they filmed it stupidly early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that would probably be the only way, unless they did block it off. But as you see, you just would not be able to do that now.
No, definitely not. Like, it would be extremely expensive. Like, I mean, even for this time period,
it would probably be
filming,
cheaper just to have, like, Cillian Murphy be in front of a green screen and just green screen London Bridge in.
Well, I mean, I'll give him credit. Like, pretty much everything is in camera, or at least to my knowledge, everything is in camera. If there's any visual effects,
Fairly certain, yeah. A lot of it is on sites and things, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's just really, really solid, and I think it's one of the rare times as well. Like, I know I'll keep on referring to them as zombies. I know they're not, but it's really like the only time. That's the
debate though with 28 Days Later. Like, there's a divide with, is it a zombie film or not?
I mean, I can't think of any other example of a zombie film where the zombies aren't dead.
Yeah, because you bring in like the zombie law, because zombies are undead. The infected aren't dead. They're just, they're filled with rage. Like, I think it's the rage virus it's called in 28 Days. They're infected, so they're not undead. They've just changed, so that it's not like they're zombies, but some people see it as that because they've undergone a dramatic turn. Like, when you're infected, you pretty much, like, turn instantly. So some people say, I mean, I'm still very undecided whether I'd class it as a zombie film or not. Because I'm just so used to seeing, like, zombie films where they're coming out the ground and half of their face is gone. They're just rotting away gradually. Yeah,
that's kind of pointless. But I do really appreciate the fact that, like I say, it's the rare time where a fast-moving rage virus doesn't really have a ring to it. Like a really fast-moving.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
but just beyond the Snyder version of Dawn of the Dead, this is the rare time where a fast-moving zombie is actually quite freaky. Like, they're just constantly charging you.
Oh yeah, I mean that's
really
why
like
I
that.
really like 28 Days, because it's terrifying.
Hmm.
Like when you get that shot of, I think it's like Cillian Murphy running and there's just like a swarm behind him. I think World War Z did it as well, but it's not nearly as terrifying because it's just a massive CG. You know, but I mean, on the video game version, it is pretty horrifying because you've got this entire swarm coming towards you, fast-moving zombies. I mean, zombies are scary enough, but, you know, you can mostly outsmart them because they're slow numbering. These things, no, they won't stop.
No,
Like,
they
you can
definitely
shoot
don't.
them in the legs and they'll still run.
Because it is literally a case of, I mean, even just like the most mundane things of like, okay, we need to go and get some more fuel for the car. You're going to have to step outside the car. Are you sure you really want to be doing that? Like, there could be 17,000 things behind you. You've got no idea
Oh,
at
that
all.
scene in the tunnel with the taxi, nah. Like,
Nah,
it's one of those
nah,
rare
even
times where I'm like sitting there biting my nails because I'm like, oh my god.
I did have like a silly idea in my head where it's like, you know what, all of a sudden this feels like a skit from Top Gear, from like back in the day. Like, that would be quite funny, of just them three going through the events of 28 Days Later with that car, just
28
everything
Top Gears
breaking
later.
down. Well, I mean, the amount of series there are. But no, I mean, the only bits that I think became a bit of an issue was like, it did get quite slow at the end. I wasn't quite sure where things were actually going to go, and all the stuff with the soldiers, like, I get what they're trying to do. Like, I know it's a very controversial aspect with Naomi Harris and the little girl as well, and how these soldiers are essentially going to try and groom them or something. It's an awkward thing where I kind of understand why they're doing it, because they do just want to restart society, but they're also going about it the wrong way. And that goes back to the whole thing of, yeah, the ones that are surviving are never going to be the nice ones, unfortunately. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to be happy-go-lucky. And even with the actual ending, with them flagging down a fighter jet going past, it does kind of leave it in a place where it's like, I don't know what you're going to do at all. And especially considering that, as far as I know, 28 Weeks Later doesn't really connect to this movie, bar a little bit. And now I know that Cillian Murphy's back in 28 Years Later, which I think has only literally been properly confirmed in the last few days. I honestly don't know what they're going to do. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm curious, very curious about what they're going to do, because it leaves it in such a place, well, anything could happen now.
And I think it's also
28
because
weeks,
it's...
nah, I wouldn't really say anything's to do with it, bar the fact, like, you're just continuing, like, the thing of the rage virus and that most of humanity's being consumed by it. Well, most of Britain's being consumed by it, bar one settlement. That's about it.
Last things to me, I'm guessing it's the entire planet that's overrun, or is it just the UK? Because we were having that conversation.
I'm fairly
after
certain it's
finishing
the
this.
UK, and
Right.
like basically they declare the United Kingdom as like a free rage whatever zone, and so people go back, but they have to live in a settlement that is like guarded and stuff like that. And then obviously, you know, it all kicks off because, you know, it wouldn't be a zombie film without somebody getting infected, and then it all kicks off again. But yeah, it's I'd be curious on your thoughts on 28 Weeks, because I'm not so sure on it anymore.